know what I love about this episode? I have my corona cut, but you clearly went and supported a local business.
I did.
You have pink highlights and I don't know, other things. I don't really notice those things.
I mean, I did all the things. I was there for 4 hours getting my hair done. Yeah, it was amazing though. I don't know if there's a way to cut to the last episode where my hair was a mess versus how it looks now. I mean, dramatic difference.
Yes.
And I learned from my hairstylist that there really are two kinds of people in the world. There's one kind is me, who desperate to go back and get the haircut, and a lot of my self-worth is tied up in my haircut, which I didn't realize until I couldn't get my haircut. And then there's a whole group of people that were texting her, or emailing her, or calling her and saying, "Hey, don't worry about me. I'm fine. Turns out I don't really care about my hair. You can get the people in that are really anxious to get their hair done and don't worry about booking us." And I was like, there's people like that? I didn't even know. So she should be marketing to people like me with some sort of messaging about, feeling better about myself with my hair,
No, that's...
and not putting
really,
it off.
It is interesting. I wouldn't have thought about it being that, people having that level of realization of oh, this is not as important to me. Yeah. My wife actually asked me to cut her hair, just the back of it, because it was getting long, and she described it as a bullet. And that was the scariest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, that is scary.
I did an okay job, but I didn't do a great job. And it's my self-worth is tied up in my ability to know how to do things and learn how to do things and do them pretty well. And cutting women's hair is not one of them.
No. I feel for her though too, right? 'Cause she got this cute pixie cut before this, and those are high maintenance haircuts. You have to get them trimmed all the time.
Yeah. So anyway, not only should the hairstylists of the world really look at the opportunity to identify specific needs that are coming up in ways that consumer perceptions are changing, but I think their consumers really understand their value so much more. That expertise, I have the utmost respect. I totally understand. I used to be $60, $100, $200. What the heck are you doing in there? Do you get
That's right.
diamond encrusted shampoo?
Nope, turns out it's priceless the way a new haircut makes you feel.
Yeah.
That's a good pivot into the pivot discussion we're having, right?
That was a good pun. No. But it is a good segue.
There we go.
To today's topic.
Yeah. So today we wanted to talk to you about this kind of the framework that you've kind of come up with to help our clients figure out where their opportunities are to be productive during a time like this. And we call it pivot because honestly, you might have some really great branding established, some good messaging. But during a crisis like this, you literally have to maybe find ways to angle your messaging a little bit and your marketing a little bit so that you're timely and you're addressing your customers' new needs if they've changed. So, yeah.
No, that's absolutely right. I think, for us, we've talked a lot about leadership. We've talked about how to identify value and the importance of those things. And that really is the foundation, right? For us, we firmly believe the greatest value that we can provide is helping our clients really become trusted providers for their clients and to really establish them in their mindset, in their customers' mindset, so that like you with your hairdresser, it is heartbreaking not to be able to go to them. But what's really interesting is I don't think anyone could have predicted how complex the challenges that this pandemic and the quarantine and the disruption that it has caused really is, and it's not universal. And so for us, what we've really been able to do is kind of walk through this pivot process with our clients to help them focus on, with this foundation of being extremely valuable, this equity that they've built in terms of their relationship with clients, to identify opportunities that are just very unique to these circumstances, right? And to be in a position to add greater value through adjusting how they think about and how they deliver their services. So, obviously, I don't think we need to go into why this is
right.
Everybody, I hope, maybe for the historians, the year is 2020.
That's right.
A global pandemic caused by coronavirus has shut down the global economy in really weird ways. And then as, particularly in the US, states begin to reopen and identify ways for us to get back to life as normal, there still are a lot of restrictions that are impacting business.
That's right. All of Saturday Night Live is being filmed from the cast members' homes.
I know, that's crazy.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah. No, it's really neat, like the creative ways that people are coming up with to do this. But sometimes you just feel stuck, right? You feel overwhelmed in terms of your ability to really know what to do. And that's completely understandable. I think it is one of the things that I run into all the time is that the people we work with are too close to what they're doing to really see it and appreciate it. And so they can't articulate it. They can't necessarily communicate it well. It doesn't mean it's not there. And so for us, what this process is a way for us to walk through with our clients to kind of identify, kind of break down their service to the core elements, to think about, okay, how are our customers being affected? And then to maybe come up with ways to meet new, to create new ways to deliver their services that meets those needs. And really what we've seen is that for companies and businesses that can do that, you blow away your customers, right? Because you're proactively anticipating just the challenges that they're facing, and you're stepping in to provide them value in ways that they're not accustomed to and they're not expecting. And that makes them customers for life. And so for us, this isn't opportunistic. This is really about building off of a foundation of great customer service, just love and care for your clients. It's really, I think, our obligation as a business to step in and help.
I think too, just to mention, I think a handful of clients, even someone I talked to yesterday, done a really good job of almost being at the bottom of this framework where they've got ideas on how to help, but they haven't worked through what we're about to walk through. So they don't know how to communicate it. They don't know how to position it, and they don't really know who they're talking to. And so sometimes just working through this, if you already have an idea of how you were trying to pivot your services, will give you the information you need to better market it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, for us, this is, so I'm going to talk through this framework. We've developed a downloadable one-pager that you can go to look up your own.
We'll put the link in the video.
Yeah, we'll put the link somewhere. I'm not going to point because
who knows where it'll be.
Who knows where it'll be. But really just want to really quickly kind of lay the foundation, and then I'll walk through the framework. So for us, really what we want to do is identify where are new needs arising because of what is going on in our society. And particularly how is what your customer is trying to do, right? Their goals, the jobs that they're trying to do. How's it impacted by just all of the complexity of what's going on? Because the real foundation for this is that your service is not what your customers buy. They don't think, oh, I want to buy a haircut. Your service does a job for them, right? It is it's a resource, it's a part of their process to meet a goal or to alleviate a pain. And so what this framework does is it really builds on that foundation. It looks at what you do in terms of understanding who your customer is, what challenges they're having, and then how is it affected.
That's right.
And the reason why we take this approach is because I don't know if y'all have heard of a metric called the customer effort score. It's historically, it's from 2010, developed by this organization. It is built off the same sort of like customer service metrics as customer satisfaction and net promoter score. But what's really interesting about customer effort score is what they have found through their research is the harder it is for your client to interact with you to get the value that you're delivering, the more likely they are to leave, to switch. And so much so that it goes from something like 96% of people who have high customer effort scores, right? It's very difficult for customers to get what they're trying to get, whether that's through customer service, whether that's through onboarding, whether that's through just using the product. And 96% are likely to abandon. It's really a score of customer loyalty. Whereas if you have a low customer effort score, so it's really easy for your clients to get that value from what you're doing, only 6%. So it's a dramatic indicator of customer loyalty.
That's awesome.
It's incredible, right? And so it the implications are even farther reaching, right? Studies have shown that lower effort, right, a lower effort score results in higher likelihood to purchase. And so the underlying philosophy of this is that the easier you make it for your customers, whatever it is, the more likely they are to buy from you.
So basically whatever job they're trying to complete at that stage, whether it's finding the service provider they want to use and then hiring that service provider they want to use, to what they're actually trying to get as value from that service provider, which, like you said, might not be the service. It's probably something else that they're really seeking, and you can't deliver that unless you understand what that value is, isn't that right?
And so, for example, you think about there are companies that move that move furniture for large organizations, right? We're talking tens of thousands of pieces of furniture. You can very easily assume that the job is getting this desk from here to there. But the job really is more about the confidence, the timeliness, the quality, and the usability at the end, right? So if you don't understand really what the job that your customer is doing in that perspective of wanting to recreate this environment and that environment, you could just look at this piece of, I'm going to move this desk from here to here and be done. But where a company's going to excel is they're going to say, okay, what do I need to do to ensure that this gets recreated here? So maybe it's taking pictures of setup, and then it's breaking down, labeling, ensuring that everything makes it from here to there, making the process free from headache, making sure that the customer knows where their stuff is at all times. So giving that sense of assurance. Not just getting it to the loading dock, but taking it upstairs, reassembling, putting it together. I mean, even going so far as, this probably wouldn't be the case, but reorganizing desks in the same initial layout that they were in. Like, if I were a customer moving offices and I could on Monday leave the office and come back the following Monday to the new office and have it be exactly like it was, I would be blown away. I'd be blown away. And so this is the whole idea. So let me jump in because I could really talk about customer value. You know this forever. All right. So I assume that this framework is going to pop up on the screen just so that y'all can see it too. But really what this is I break it down into about 5 or 6 sections. And you kind of start at the top and you walk your way down. So who's your customer? That's the business, right? Within that, who's the buyer? So who's the one who makes the decision? And then identifying who the user is. And the distinction here is that you can create value for your customer, their customers, and the individuals who aren't necessarily the users of your product, but care about it, right? So in the furniture moving example, the user is actually going to be the employee who needs that furniture when they come back to work the following Monday. But your buyer is the office manager or whoever is coordinating the move. You deliver different value to each of them. All right. So once you've identified who they are, you really want to think about what they're using your service for, right? So in the hairstylist example, using your service to reshape your hair to go into a style, right? That you feel confident about. The job is, the task is a haircut, but the job is part of an overall regimen that builds towards your self-confidence, right? And this is extremely valuable, right? Because, how you look really impacts how people perceive you. And
that's right.
Right. And so you wouldn't want to be, I don't know, filming a blogcast episode with just hair going everywhere and Cruella de Vil. Like, no, you really want to have that professional polish.
That's right. And it also determines like who I would go to for that, right? Because I want to pick a person who I can trust with that level of importance that I put on it, right?
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
go to
and that's
strip mall haircut place, right?
I could be the best hairstylist in the world, but if I can't interpret your sense of style, I'm not going to do a good job. I'll give you what I think will look good. And I'll probably be right because aesthetically I am like the Pablo Picasso of the women's style. No, I can't even finish that. No. Anyway, but the point being, the job that I'm doing is I'm building your self-worth, right? I'm not building your self-worth, but I'm helping contribute to the foundation of your confidence in your life, whatever that is, right? And so I need to understand that that's the value that I create by contributing to the physical aesthetic of that, right? So that job leads to your goal. And so go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, because this just made me think about all the times I push my husband to try to get a more expensive haircut because I think he'd enjoy the experience. Just because everybody needs a haircut doesn't mean everybody values it the same. And I think that's the distinction, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Between the job and the value. Yeah.
I have a funny anecdote about a time I inadvertently got $100 haircut and I was mad. It was a great haircut, but I was mad.
Yeah.
I was so mad. But maybe we could do a podcast on that story later. But really, here's the next step, right? So once I understand their value and I'm focused on them, I'm not focused on me anymore. I'm really the one who's going to help them get to that goal. Then I want to break down all of the steps that they go through that affect how they utilize my service to get to that goal, right? And so in business, this is what's called the value chain. And so what we've laid out here in the middle, you can see, is a general description of the steps that most businesses go through. It's going to vary depending on industry and depending on company size, but it's pretty consistent. There's the concept, the prototyping, the development. There's the getting of the materials. There's the actual assembly part of it. There's the delivery. So how are you actually making sure that the service gets into the hand of the customer? There's the sales part, the experience of the transaction. There's the actual experience of them receiving it. And so it's the manufacturing to the point where then they receive it, the customer delivery. And then beyond that, how are they using it? And so what we've done is we've laid this out for you to think about, given who your customer is, both the buyer and the user, how is COVID-19 particularly, but you could use this for anything. This is great for trend forecasting. But just to think through, how is this impacting? And to focus in and say, okay, yes, it's impacting how they're getting their materials. So for example, restaurant supply, right? Restaurant supply, is the middleman between the farming industry and the restaurant. They move millions of pounds of food, which is perishable, every day. So restaurants, their end customers, no longer can have people coming into their restaurants, or at least limited capacity. So suddenly your volume is dropped by 75% at most, you know? And so what are you going to do with all of this food that you're responsible for delivering, right? Your means of production in that are the logistical elements of it, right? So you don't actually produce the food. So a couple ways that you can identify in here that, you know, your industries are being disrupted, right? Physical distancing, less people are allowed to be in restaurants. So, or restaurants were closed, right? Travel restrictions. So people aren't necessarily going to be going to restaurants that were in more remote areas or in tourist destinations. Economic uncertainty. People are spending less money in restaurants. All of these ways are affecting your industry, your customers' industry. And so you think through, okay, well, if this is the case, what then can we do, right? So how is a restaurant going to be able to add value to their clients in this time if they're struggling through this? And so the idea is to think about, okay, if they're stuck, how can I help? So we've seen these pain points. So customers can't come into restaurants. Well, what opportunity does that create, right? Is there a way to deliver food to customers? Obviously, there are, you know, this is an industry that's already been developed up, but perhaps in your industry, right, in the restaurant supply, maybe what you do is instead of saying bulk orders to restaurants, you work with restaurants and do direct to consumers or direct to a distribution point. Or maybe you add in food packaging so that you get the same restaurant material experience, but since the cooks can't go into the restaurant to cook it, you're putting all of the ingredients together and then working with the restaurant to then deliver these meal packages to your consumers.
I think we saw a lot of really cool examples of this too, didn't we, from restaurants?
Yeah. No,
and they
absolutely
pivoted so quickly. Like they had the ability to access through their value chain, you know, large amounts of cleaning supplies and toilet paper. And to see some of these restaurants go ahead and just turn it around and package it with meal kits and things like that, I mean, it was just genius. So they were doing this with that, like just informally. So as a service-based business, it's a little bit trickier because you really have to think about it in less concrete terms, probably.
Yeah, and it's really hard when you're so accustomed to making sure that you do your service well to kind of take that step back, which is why we really enjoy working with customers to go through this process.
Yeah.
We actually have done this a couple times where we just very specifically focus on, okay, what is the opportunity here for you? And then the next piece, as you go to the bottom of the worksheet, after you've identified a couple of those opportunities, is say, okay, can you capitalize on it in the medium term, in the short term, right? So operationally, what's it going to take for you to do this pivot, right? Because rethinking entire manufacturing lines is not a 2-week turnaround. It's just not. But you know, reapplying some steps in that process, maybe. And then the last piece, and I think this is the most important one, is to really be able to think through, okay, how am I going to communicate this? Most of what we've seen in marketing, and I appreciate this, but I hate it, is all about the splash, the little box that says COVID-19, here's how we care.
Yeah.
And I got so many emails about, here's how we care. Like, hey, alumni of this university, here's how the toilets in the gym facility are being cleaned. And I'm just like, I haven't been to that school in over 20 years.
That's right.
I'm glad that you guys are really taking care of it, but this is not for me, I'm not your customer.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, the end of this is really thinking through, okay, what is going to resonate? How are we going to speak this into your customers' lives? Because right now they're super busy. They're trying to accommodate and pivot as well. How can you get this message to them in a way that both resonates, is clear, leads them to action, but also has a sense of urgency to create a little bit of action? And so for us, that goes into more of marketing strategy and tactics, which is why we are partnering with companies to do this, because thinking through this process can be complex in and of itself, but at the same time, then getting those messages out in a timely way is also very complex. So,
and it's hard to remember to be customer centric.
Yeah.
When you're thinking through a process like this, then you bring it back to yourself as a business owner or operator. You're thinking, well, here's all the things we can do. So your first reaction is we should probably send out communication that says, here's all the things we can do. And you completely miss addressing the customer's pain point and what they're actually needing at this very moment in that messaging. And you're going to wonder why you weren't successful in your pivot when there was all this opportunity. And it's because you forgot the customer again. So you got to bring it back full circle.
Yeah. I know one of the things that I'm excited about is you're going to talk about brand equity in a future episode. And you have talked about how brand equity is very similar to the concept of relationships. And I just think about I think that's so accurate, because I think about in my marriage, and I think that most of the men who are listening to this would appreciate this as well. I suck at just trying to solve my wife's problem and give her options. Like, hey, you try this, and this. And she's like, nope. And after a lot of trial and error, I have learned to catch myself and clarify, like, hey, what's helpful right now? And then to be very specific of, it seems like this, I can do this. Would you like me to? Right? Here's what I'm thinking. Would you like me to? And I think it's the same thing right now, right? I am not reading those COVID-19 emails because they're not for me. They're not helpful to me. And I don't want to process for this company what it means for me. I just don't. Like, I'm trying to take care of my circle of priorities, right? Family, community, and business.
Yeah.
And legitimately, this app that I downloaded at the end of last year because it was fun, like, not getting my attention right now. And so I think that's a really key part that needs to be treated sensitively, right? Like you said, to be customer centric.
Well, I think that's good. So maybe the next one, we'll go ahead and do that brand equity discussion. And because at the top of that relationship pyramid for branding is that loyalty piece, which you discussed at the top of this. It really is, the more you can listen and the more you deliver what your customers want, that loyalty piece just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So,
yeah. No, I think that's great. So like we said, this is available for you for download on our website. Follow the link that is going to appear somewhere on this screen. And if y'all want help with this, don't hesitate to reach out, right?
Yeah, let us know.
Really, like, this is not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. So we're definitely here for y'all. Awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you, Jessica. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, this is great. All right, see you next time. Right. Bye.
Jessica, one more thing before we begin. Would you do me a favor? The shutter lattices on the shutter door facing you, closest to you, can you open them? See if we can get just a tad more light in there. So you have two shutters. They are now, your window is open, but the door closest to you has a bunch of slats on the window. Can you open those slats and see if we can get just a little bit more light on it, please?
Is that seriously who you guys want to entrust with your marketing strategy? You can't even open a window.
dramatically different.
It is a bit better. It's not dramatic, but
yeah, it's dramatic.
Oh yeah, see, look up. No, yeah, like look, see, look, sparkles. There we go, sparkles in there.
And sparkle, and shine, and sparkle.